we're killing the lead here. How are we talking about that game and not talking about Denver?
Thank you.
Yes. Come on now.
That's the lead right now.
Yeah, don't kill that.
Hackett, given no play calling duties, isn't that why he was hired in the first place?
It's the beginning of the end, man. It's the beginning of the end. Now he's being asked about it afterwards by the media. As it stands now, here was the Broncos head coach talking about his job security afterwards.
Nate, you said earlier this week that every day you're always coaching for your job. Is that still on your mind about your job moving forward? And also, have you talked to George or Greg about your future?
For me, everything's about this team and the staff. I've told you guys that before. I mean, I just want to do everything I can to help this team win. We've been so close. We've had so many opportunities. We've had a lot of things happen this year that are unfortunate, but we have to continually find ways to win. That's my sole purpose. That's all I'm looking to do. Whatever happens, those things I can't control.
It's over. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. Like, I wonder if deep down he knows there's no solution here. I mean, you brought in Russell Wilson. They've already given him the contract. Somebody's going to have to be the fall guy. You've got new ownership there. I mean, we've made this point after the first game of the season. It was so bad and the optics looked so bad that it felt like if it didn't get turned around quick and you had more of this stuff play out nationally and more people looking at it going, wait, you're hiring a clock management guy in the season because it's too much and now he's given up play calling duties. It just feels like this is only a matter of time. I don't see any way he comes back year two. I just don't see it.
I feel like there's a couple of reasons why you could make the case they hired him. It's an offensive-driven league, and you had a previous defensive-minded head coach, Vic Fangio, one of the better defensive minds in the NFL. Now, you may be regretting that to some degree because, who knows how things would have been different had they just gotten Russell Wilson. Vic Fangio brings in an OC. He maybe feels like it's a good match or however you'd pair that together. Regardless, it's an offensive-driven league, so you see offensive-minded head coaches getting hired more often. And the other thing is I think you have to think that they thought they had a shot at Aaron Rodgers. They must have really thought that the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett would help facilitate that and that they would be able to trade for Aaron Rodgers. Otherwise, there's really not much to go on. He had no prior head coaching experience. If you look at him as a play caller, you have to go back to his days at Syracuse. You have to go back to his days at, I think, Buffalo maybe he calls plays, but he didn't call plays in Green Bay. So there's really nothing you can hang your hat on. And then as you get into the beginning of the season, you have to hire Jerry Rosburg because you realize you're ill-prepared situationally to handle things in game. I mean, I would say if I'm the Walton family, because I bought this franchise after you've already hired Nathaniel Hackett, you have zero ties, not only to the Nathaniel Hackett, but whoever was in charge of making that decision. So if it's George Payton, he would be part of that, or whoever else in the organization was pushing them to go in that direction. And I also think there's at times when you have a general manager who makes a head coaching hire, ultimately there's two ways of looking at it. When ownership's involved, they want those two to get along. So they're probably going to hire someone who's got a previous experience together, or they want those two to work in unison. When you get an owner that then anoints a general manager to do it, now you're getting a general manager who's looking at a guy that he can control. Because ultimately, he doesn't want to be butting heads with the head coach about his personnel decisions, right? Or any other decisions that he makes in regards to the organization. And I feel like that's how this went down. George Payton ended up hiring a guy that he could control in Nathaniel Hackett. It's much easier to control a guy who's never been head coach before, who's thankful for the opportunity, appreciative of that opportunity, right? And then once he gets in the job, he's like, hey, man, I need some help, man. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, yeah, I'm playing George Payton. Oh, yeah, we can work with you. We'll get this and this. We know some contacts. We get Jerry Rosburg to come in here. That's all good and fun, but at the end of the day, if you're the Walton family, not only are you looking at Nathaniel Hackett, you might be looking at George Payton going, hold on a second. Did you hire this guy? Like, what was the thought process there? And why should we let you be in charge of hiring the next guy if we don't feel like this is the right fit?
Let's not bury the lead. Pete Carroll somewhere right now sipping on a Long Island iced tea talking about, I told you it wasn't me. I told you it wasn't me.
By the way, Seattle.
Wristbands work in Seattle.
Seattle right now. Seattle.
Russ has been wearing a wristband.
I know.
Seattle right now has got the number. They've got the number 5 pick in the draft.
That's the best.
So they're a borderline playoff team, or they could be a playoff team and win their division, and Seattle's going to end up with potentially a top 5 pick in the NFL draft because of that trade.
And have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Which means that depending on how they measure it out, they could go get another player that makes them better defensive front-wise, offensive front-wise.
And they hit it out of the park in the draft this year with Kenneth Walker, and then it just, man, I don't know. A lot of people
A
lot of people probably thought that this wasn't going to be a Super Bowl this year for Denver. It's a tough division, tough AFC, all that. I don't know anybody that thought this.
You remember seeing Any Given Sunday with the QB, the old QB that lost his job?
Cap Rooney.
All right, his chick slapped the S out of him and told him to tighten up and get his job back. You think there's some slapping going on in Denver? Like, why did we leave Seattle? Why'd you do it? Why'd we come here? This is what we bought this 900,000 square foot home with 3 bedrooms and 99 bathrooms for. Is this what we did it for?
It's a shame.
Tighten up. You got an office, dang it. You got an office. Win. We need to win.
Are they going to make him give up his office?
I mean, if I was ownership, I'd be walking in that thing saying, hey, if we want to make it less confrontational, we'll have that once we hire a new head coach, once we make those changes, and be like, yeah, this new head coach isn't buying this. So why don't you go get your own office somewhere near the facility?
Yeah, that's all. They probably got office parks near the facility.
Who are a couple of names you could see if Nathaniel Hackett is done after this year?
Well, everyone's going to throw out Sean Payton, right?
Yeah.
Because look, the short is their defense is doing fine. Like, they're still one of the tougher defenses in the NFL, personnel-wise, too, even after giving up Bradley Chubb. You know, Baron Browning, I think, has been one of the bigger surprises. He's not Micah Parsons level, but he's like a similar in the sense of he was an off-the-ball linebacker. And then because of the issues with, even though they brought on Randy Gregory, he's been a little banged up. Because of those issues, they kind of forced him to put him off the edge. And then I think when you go back and watch him back at Ohio State, he was a good blitzer. You know, and now you figure out like, oh, like we can take some of these guys who we've seen in that capacity, and they're very capable of all of a sudden becoming an elite edge defender. So, you know, that's going to help, but the offense is the biggest glaring weakness, and it'd have to be someone that you could maximize Russell Wilson's ability. So everyone's like, really forget Pete Carroll. The person who's smiling right now is Sean Payton, because as he watches the Chargers lose last night, as he watches the Broncos lose, he's just smiling because he's like, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, everyone's gonna be bidding on my services at this point in time.
It's God, that's crazy. Just to think this division, everybody thought was going to be the division that was going to run away with everything. They might end up.
I was dead wrong about this, man.
Oh man, they might end up with one team. Now that one team's significantly better than everybody else, it appears, in the AFC. But man, not the season anybody thought was going to take place in the AFC West.